Effective goal setting begins with absolute clarity because the brain functions most efficiently when it knows exactly what it is aiming to achieve. Vague or ambiguous goals create cognitive friction, leaving the mind uncertain about where to direct attention, which often leads to procrastination, stress, or scattered effort. The prefrontal cortex, which governs executive functions such as planning, decision-making, and behavioral regulation, requires a clear target to engage fully. When a goal is specific, measurable, and time-bound, the brain can map out actionable steps, anticipate potential obstacles, and allocate resources strategically. Clarity transforms abstract intentions into concrete objectives, making it possible for neural circuits to engage systematically and for behavior to align with desired outcomes. Clarity also significantly enhances motivation by creating a sense of direction and purpose. The brain thrives on patterns and predictability, and a clearly defined goal provides a roadmap that activates reward and anticipation circuits. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with motivation, learning, and reinforcement, is released not only when a goal is achieved, but also when progress toward a well-defined objective is planned and anticipated. By visualizing a specific outcome, the brain receives consistent signals of importance, making it easier to maintain focus, sustain effort over time, and resist distractions or competing impulses. Without this level of specificity, goals produce inconsistent or weak signals, which reduces engagement and makes the pursuit of objectives more effortful and less satisfying. Defining a goal with precision also facilitates mental rehearsal, a powerful cognitive tool. Mental rehearsal occurs when the brain simulates the steps required to achieve a goal, anticipating challenges and practicing responses before action is taken. This strengthens neural pathways associated with the desired behaviors and primes the nervous system for execution. For instance, if someone sets a goal to complete a project within a month, breaking the goal into clear stepwise actions allows the brain to visualize each step, foresee potential roadblocks, and prepare adaptive strategies. Mental rehearsal builds confidence, improves planning efficiency, and reduces cognitive load during actual task execution because the brain has already practiced navigating the sequence of steps mentally. Clarity enables the creation of measurable benchmarks, which are essential for sustaining momentum. Goals without concrete indicators of progress make it difficult for the brain to register achievement, thereby limiting dopamine-driven reinforcement. When a goal includes specific milestones, each small success triggers reward circuits, reinforcing effort and motivating continued action. This feedback loop ensures that the brain perceives progress, reducing overwhelm from large objectives and increasing the sense of competence and capability. Measurable progress also allows the brain to adapt strategies based on feedback, optimizing performance, and reinforcing habits that support goal attainment. A clear goal also illuminates the resources and strategies needed for success. When objectives are precisely defined, it becomes easier to identify the necessary skills, tools, and environmental conditions that support achievement. This reduces uncertainty and cognitive load, allowing the prefrontal cortex to focus on the most relevant tasks rather than constantly deciding what to do next. By contrast, vague goals leave the brain guessing, increasing stress and reducing efficiency. Clear goals create alignment across cognitive, emotional, and behavioral systems, ensuring that attention, effort, and planning converge toward a coherent outcome, transforming intention into consistent, measurable action and engaging the brain's reward systems to reinforce progress. Breaking goals into smaller, manageable sub-goals is a critical strategy for effective achievement because it aligns with how the brain processes tasks, motivation, and reward. Large, complex objectives can easily overwhelm the prefrontal cortex, creating cognitive overload and triggering stress responses that lead to procrastination or avoidance. By dividing a goal into smaller steps, the brain receives frequent signals of accomplishment, which engages the dopaminergic reward system and reinforces the behaviors necessary to reach the larger objective. This approach turns a potentially intimidating goal into a series of actionable, achievable milestones, each providing a sense of progress and momentum. In essence, sub-goals function as cognitive scaffolding, supporting sustained attention, planning, and motivation while reducing the mental load associated with tackling the entire goal at once. Each sub-goal serves as a mini feedback loop for the brain, delivering reinforcement through small successes that trigger dopamine release. Dopamine is not just associated with pleasure, It is a critical neurotransmitter for learning, motivation, and persistence. Every completed sub-goal signals to the brain that effort produces tangible results, reinforcing neural pathways that support goal-directed behavior. This cumulative reinforcement helps maintain engagement over time, particularly when the overall objective is large or requires long-term commitment. The brain learns to associate deliberate action with progress and reward, strengthening motivation and reducing the likelihood of distraction or procrastination. Sub-goals also improve planning and decision-making by providing a clear roadmap for action. When a goal is divided into smaller steps, the brain can anticipate obstacles and strategize solutions in advance. This forward planning reduces uncertainty and cognitive friction, allowing the prefrontal cortex to operate more efficiently. Each sub-goal becomes an opportunity to rehearse decision-making, evaluate performance, and adjust strategies as needed. This iterative process creates adaptability and resilience, ensuring that setbacks are treated as learning experiences rather than failures, and allowing the brain to continually refine the approach toward the larger goal. Breaking goals into smaller units also supports sustained attention and reduces mental fatigue. Large objectives often demand prolonged focus, which can be difficult for the brain to maintain continuously. By concentrating on one sub-goal at a time, attentional resources are conserved and can be applied more effectively. This structure also allows for frequent reassessment and recalibration, keeping the goal achievable and aligned with evolving circumstances. Each sub-goal functions as a checkpoint that provides an opportunity for reflection and course correction, ensuring that effort remains directed and purposeful. Additionally, sub-goals contribute to a sense of competence and confidence. When individuals see measurable progress, even in small increments, the brain's reward and learning systems interpret this as evidence of capability. Confidence builds as these repeated successes demonstrate that challenges are manageable and that persistent effort produces results. This psychological reinforcement further engages neural circuits associated with motivation, perseverance, and problem solving, creating a positive feedback loop that drives continued action toward the larger goal. Over time, the combination of small wins, clear planning, and neural reinforcement ensures that even complex objectives become attainable, sustainable, and less intimidating. Aligning goals with personal purpose and intrinsic motivation is a fundamental principle for achieving lasting success because the brain prioritizes actions that are meaningful and relevant to the self. When a goal resonates with core values or personal aspirations, it engages neural circuits associated with sustained attention, reward anticipation, and long-term planning, making it easier to remain committed even in the face of obstacles or setbacks. In contrast, goals that are driven primarily by external pressures, such as social expectations or superficial rewards, often struggle to generate consistent motivation, because the brain interprets these goals as less relevant, leading to fluctuating engagement and increased cognitive resistance. Aligning goals with purpose creates a psychological anchor that the nervous system can rely on, providing a stable foundation for persistent effort and adaptive behavior. Intrinsic motivation activates the brain's dopaminergic system in a unique and sustained way. Dopamine is released not only in response to achieving outcomes, but also in anticipation of progress toward goals that are personally meaningful. When an individual is working on a goal that aligns with their values, every small action or sub-goal triggers reinforcement signals that strengthen neural pathways associated with reward, learning, and behavioral persistence. This creates a feedback loop in which effort itself becomes inherently rewarding, which reduces the likelihood of procrastination or distraction. Over time, the brain learns to associate the pursuit of purpose-driven goals with positive affect and neural reinforcement, creating momentum that carries through challenges and setbacks. Goals aligned with personal purpose also enhance cognitive focus and emotional resilience. The prefrontal cortex, which governs executive functions like planning and attention, is more effectively engaged when the brain perceives that the effort is meaningful. Simultaneously, the amygdala, responsible for stress and threat detection, becomes less reactive in situations where the goal feels intrinsically valuable. This combination allows individuals to maintain clarity and persistence under pressure, reducing emotional hijacking or impulsive reactions that could derail progress. The alignment of goal and purpose effectively recalibrates the nervous system, enabling the mind to operate in a state of motivated, regulated engagement rather than reactive or avoidant behavior. Furthermore, purpose-aligned goals facilitate long-term planning and strategic thinking. The brain is better able to prioritize actions, allocate resources, and anticipate obstacles when objectives are meaningful and relevant. This alignment allows for more efficient decision-making, as the nervous system can distinguish between high-priority actions that support core values and low-priority tasks that do not contribute meaningfully. Goals grounded in purpose also increase the likelihood of persistence over extended periods because the brain interprets challenges as surmountable components of a meaningful trajectory rather than arbitrary difficulties. This perspective reduces cognitive fatigue and emotional burnout, sustaining engagement and performance. Purpose-driven goals also promote greater satisfaction and fulfillment during the process of achievement, not just upon reaching the endpoint. When effort is aligned with intrinsic values, the journey itself provides reward signals that reinforce persistence, self-efficacy, and confidence. These neural and psychological reinforcements create a self-sustaining system. Meaningful goals motivate consistent action strengthens neural pathways, and stronger neural pathways make sustained engagement easier. By anchoring objectives to personal purpose, individuals transform goal pursuit from a task-oriented exercise into an integrated process that supports growth, resilience, and long-term success, ensuring that the brain remains engaged, motivated, and adaptive throughout the journey. Creating an environment and behavioral structure that supports goal achievement is a crucial component of turning intentions into consistent action because the brain is highly responsive to external cues. Our nervous system constantly monitors surroundings, seeking signals that either facilitate or inhibit behavior. When the environment is aligned with a goal, it reduces cognitive friction, conserves mental energy, and allows the prefrontal cortex to focus on planning and execution rather than overcoming distractions. For example, a workspace organized to minimize interruptions with clear visual reminders of priorities provides the brain with constant cues that reinforce desired behaviors and suppress competing impulses. This scaffolding ensures that the brain operates efficiently, directing attention and effort toward goal-relevant tasks rather than reacting to extraneous stimuli. Behavioral support through habit formation further strengthens goal-directed progress. Habits are automated neural pathways that reduce the need for conscious effort, freeing cognitive resources for higher-order decision-making and problem-solving. By embedding goal-oriented behaviors into daily routines, individuals create a system where action toward objectives becomes automatic, reliable, and less dependent on fluctuating motivation or willpower. For instance, setting aside a dedicated time each day for a key task or linking a new behavior to an existing routine leverages the brain's natural tendency to form associative patterns. Repetition reinforces neural pathways, gradually transforming effortful actions into effortless habits, which reduces resistance and increases the consistency of progress. Structuring the environment also includes managing potential distractions and triggers that could derail progress. The brain is highly sensitive to novelty and interruption, which can activate reward circuits and pull attention away from important tasks. By removing unnecessary distractions, such as notifications, clutter, or competing tasks, the nervous system can maintain a state of focused engagement. Additionally, visual cues and reminders can serve as anchors for attention, helping to sustain motivation and reinforce the significance of ongoing effort. For example, keeping a visible checklist, calendar, or progress tracker provides immediate feedback, allowing the brain to recognize achievements, update strategies, and sustain momentum. Behavioral scaffolding also involves deliberate scheduling and time management. Allocating specific time blocks for goal-related activities reduces decision fatigue and ensures that important tasks receive priority attention. The brain responds positively to structured routines because they create predictability and reduce cognitive load, which improves both focus and efficiency. Coupling these routines with rewards for completion further engages the dopaminergic system, reinforcing the association between consistent effort and positive outcomes. Over time, the combination of structured environment, habits, and feedback loops produces a neural and behavioral ecosystem that supports sustained progress. Finally, environmental and behavioral alignment interacts synergistically with goal clarity and intrinsic motivation. When the surroundings and routines are tailored to support meaningful objectives, the brain's attentional networks and reward systems are reinforced in a coherent, self-reinforcing cycle. The prefrontal cortex can concentrate on executing strategic steps rather than constantly overcoming obstacles or resisting distractions, while habitual behaviors automate essential components of goal pursuit. This alignment maximizes efficiency, reduces cognitive friction, and increases the probability of success, creating conditions in which goals are not only achievable but integrated seamlessly into daily life, allowing the nervous system to operate in an optimized, focused, and resilient state. Monitoring progress and incorporating feedback is a critical element in achieving goals because the brain relies on continuous information to guide behavior, adapt strategies, and sustain motivation. Without accurate feedback, the nervous system cannot evaluate whether actions are effective, which increases uncertainty and reduces the likelihood of persistent effort. Regular tracking of progress provides measurable data, allowing the brain to update internal models of cause and effect, reinforcing neural pathways associated with successful behavior. When each milestone is observed and assessed, the dopaminergic reward system is engaged, signaling achievement and encouraging continued action. This creates a positive feedback loop in which progress generates motivation, and motivation drives further effort, making consistent advancement toward the goal more reliable and sustainable. Feedback also allows for adaptive learning and strategy refinement. No plan is perfect from the outset, and obstacles or unexpected challenges are inevitable. By systematically monitoring outcomes and evaluating actions, the brain is able to identify what works and what does not, optimizing future behavior. This iterative process engages the prefrontal cortex for executive decision-making while activating regions involved in problem-solving, attention, and error detection. Rather than perceiving setbacks as failures, the brain interprets them as data points that inform the next steps. This approach reduces emotional reactivity, preserves cognitive clarity, and fosters resilience, allowing the individual to maintain focus and momentum even when difficulties arise. Establishing measurable benchmarks is essential for effective monitoring. Clear indicators of progress, whether quantitative or qualitative, provide the brain with concrete signals of accomplishment, which are necessary for sustaining engagement. Each achieved milestone triggers reward circuits, reinforcing behaviors and strengthening neural pathways associated with goal-directed action. These incremental successes prevent overwhelm from large or complex goals, making progress tangible and reinforcing the sense of competence. By contrast, vague or ill-defined measures leave the brain without reliable feedback, which can erode motivation and increase frustration or procrastination. Well-defined metrics ensure that effort is recognized, evaluated, and rewarded in a way that aligns with the brain's natural learning mechanisms. Regular reflection and evaluation also enhance self-awareness and metacognitive control. The act of reviewing progress allows individuals to recognize patterns in their behavior, identify habits that support or hinder goal attainment, and adjust priorities as needed. This process engages attentional networks, self-monitoring circuits, and executive regions of the brain, promoting deliberate, intentional action rather than reactive behavior. Over time, monitoring and feedback strengthen the brain's ability to anticipate challenges, plan strategically, and allocate effort efficiently, ensuring that progress remains aligned with overarching objectives and values. In addition to structured feedback, celebrating small wins and acknowledging incremental progress reinforces motivation and psychological resilience. Recognizing effort and achievement, even in minor steps, engages reward pathways and encourages repetition of effective behaviors. This reinforcement is particularly important for long-term goals that require sustained commitment, as it helps prevent burnout and maintains the brain's engagement over extended periods. By integrating monitoring, feedback, and acknowledgement of progress into the goal-setting process, the nervous system remains engaged, adaptive, and motivated, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that maximizes the likelihood of success. Cultivating emotional regulation during goal pursuit is essential because the process of achieving meaningful objectives inevitably involves challenges, setbacks, and stressors that can derail progress if not managed effectively. The brain's emotional circuits, particularly the amygdala, are highly sensitive to perceived threats, errors, or obstacles, which can trigger automatic stress responses such as anxiety, frustration, or avoidance. Without deliberate regulation, these responses can overpower the prefrontal cortex's executive control, leading to impulsive decisions, procrastination, or disengagement from the goal. Emotional regulation, therefore, is not a secondary concern. It is a central mechanism that allows sustained focus, adaptive problem solving, and consistent forward momentum in the face of inevitable difficulties. Developing emotional regulation begins with awareness of internal states. By noticing early signs of stress, frustration, or distraction, individuals can engage attentional networks to intervene before reactive patterns dominate behavior. Techniques such as brief mindfulness exercises, controlled breathing, or body scanning allow the nervous system to downshift from sympathetic overactivation toward a more balanced parasympathetic state. This reduces the intensity of emotional responses, stabilizes physiological arousal, and enhances cognitive clarity, enabling the prefrontal cortex to maintain focus on the next actionable step rather than being hijacked by automatic emotional reactions. In this way, the brain learns to respond to challenges with deliberate action instead of impulsive reactivity. Regulation of emotion also strengthens resilience. When setbacks occur, individuals with practiced emotional control are able to reinterpret obstacles as opportunities for learning and adaptation. This cognitive reframing engages prefrontal limbic circuits, allowing the brain to process negative events without triggering prolonged stress responses. Over time, repeated exposure to challenges combined with effective emotional regulation trains the nervous system to maintain stability under pressure. The amygdala's reactivity decreases while prefrontal control over attention, planning, and decision-making increases, creating a neurological environment in which persistence becomes natural and stress is experienced as manageable rather than overwhelming. Goal pursuit is further supported by anticipating potential emotional challenges and preparing strategies in advance. Visualization of difficult scenarios, mental rehearsal of adaptive responses, and setting contingency plans prime the brain's executive networks, reducing the likelihood of emotional disruption during actual events. This proactive approach not only minimizes cognitive load in the moment, but also strengthens neural pathways for adaptive coping, enhancing overall resilience and flexibility. By rehearsing how to respond to setbacks, the brain learns to maintain focus, sustain motivation, and regulate affect in real time, increasing the probability of goal attainment. Finally, emotional regulation enhances consistency and long-term engagement with goals. Maintaining stable, effective states allows the brain to focus on strategy, planning, and incremental progress rather than being consumed by stress, distraction, or frustration. Coupled with clear goals, structured sub-goals, intrinsic motivation, environmental support, and feedback loops, effective emotional regulation ensures that the nervous system remains optimized for sustained effort. This integration of cognitive, emotional, and physiological processes allows the individual to navigate the complexities of goal pursuit efficiently, persist through challenges, and steadily advance toward meaningful objective. Ultimately, mastering emotional regulation is what allows goal pursuit to be both sustainable and effective. By stabilizing attention, reducing reactive stress, and maintaining clarity under pressure, the brain is able to execute plans, adapt strategies, and persist through challenges without being derailed by temporary setbacks. When emotional control is integrated with clear goals, structured sub-goals, intrinsic motivation, environmental support, and regular feedback, it creates a resilient, self-reinforcing system that maximizes performance and progress. Over time, this capacity not only increases the likelihood of achieving objectives, but also strengthens the nervous system, enhances mental resilience, and cultivates confidence, making the process of achieving goals more efficient, consistent, and ultimately rewarding.